That'll get you some dust. Well, it's the Friday morning fiasco
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
with Michael Gavlik. Michael, what's your channel?
Sweet Home Maricopa. Thank you, Kari Lake.
Yeah, on YouTube. Okay, so I'm putting the link in the description if you guys want to go give him some love. Q out of the darkness is not on the show today. Sometimes he pops in, but he's a usual guest on our Friday show. So this show, I push it out to Rumble and to locals, and I'm going to try and clip some of this for YouTube for the first time. First topic, Michael, before we get into too much frabba-jabba. Trump, yesterday, big announcement, releases, huge announcement. Let's look at some of these. Let's see what we have here. There you go. So first, yeah, this is that one is getting ahead of it. Let's do this. Okay.
All right. So those are actually his NFTs because when he announced big announcement coming, it was kind of bad timing because everybody's paying attention to Arizona and what's going on there. And this is
a total absolute Trump move. This is a total Trump move. Okay. So for the audience, these are NFTs. He calls them collect Trump cards. They're like Trump trading cards, but NFTs are just art registered to the to cryptocurrency. In this case, it's Ethereum. So the art on these, they're whatever. I don't even care. But they're making. He's done about 1,000 ETH. So he's getting up there in dough. So I have some experience on this because last year I made, look, Doug TENNAPEL's Eternal Clay NFTs.
That's right.
I only did 300 ETH.
I remember when you were doing these.
Yeah, they're collectible art, harmless, right? But now let's go to the backlash. Here's the Hodge twins, whom I love, but I'm just saying, they go, whoever told Trump to do this should be fired.
You're fired.
Yeah. So here's his announcement for the big.
You're fired.
The big Trump. You're fired.
I got a terrible impression.
Oh, I can't do Trump either. I'm really bad.
So it has to hit me. I have to be in the mood, and it just has to hit me. I can't summon it.
Yeah. So all of that is just to say, I'm always in defense of Trump because I just think most people's reactions to him is so illegit. Okay, so first of all, here's this, and this always sounds like a double-handed compliment, right? Trump is tacky. He's a tacky huckster salesman, and you'll never uncouth, tacky, and you'll never fix that. So Trump ties, Trump steaks, Trump University. I don't even care. Trump, whatever. And these are Trump NFTs. And the Republicans, all of our right-wing buddies, are all acting like this is the first time he's ever done this.
I just have to thank you, Doug, for putting in perspective for me, because I haven't put any thought into it. I just heard about the big announcement, and I'm just so busy, making videos and working a job. And I'm like, am I going to do a video about this thing, this like total out of left field thing that Trump just did and got everybody stirred up? Thank you for putting in perspective. It's just him.
It's just him. And you're not going to fix him. They're going, how dare he sell these NFT trading cards? Like, sounds like Trump to me.
Sounds like a free country.
It sounds like a free, freaking
capitalistic endeavor, right? A capitalistic.
And everyone's talking about him. Everyone's talking about him right now because, once again, he runs all conversations, just his existence. He probably raised $1 million on these in 24 hours. It didn't cost him any money to make them. It doesn't cost. There's no in cost. So it's free money. And by the way, I was studying. Melania did a set of NFTs last year, earlier. I almost bought one. I didn't, but I'm just saying the problem is he's a year late because he could have made probably about $500 million if he did this a year ago when I was doing it.
Right.
He'd have just gone nuclear. But so anyways, these are all the rage now. Big picture, right, Michael? What's the big deal? Big picture, everyone's like, you're off message. You should be doing what DeSantis is doing or whatever, who's doing actually legit politics or whatever. But people forget how much Trump just doesn't follow a formula.
Yeah, the only reaction I caught to this, I squeezed in one video. I listened to Ben Shapiro, I think,
Yeah.
did a 10-minute. He's lost the plot. This is why, blah blah blah. And he's
Yeah.
always been a never Trump. Well, no, he was a never Trumper, and
Yeah.
then came around, and now he's back. He's like, nope, Trump's lost the plot. He's gone.
I went to his Christmas party the other night. I did the Daily Wire or holiday party,
Say hi to him for me.
I did. I had cigars with him about 2 the guy that I said hi to was Andrew Clavin, because he's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
But I got to hang out. I got a hearty handshake from Jeremy Boring, met his wife, very kind. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. I mean, that's a room full of people you want to hang around.
Yeah, no, I was at the No Safe Spaces Hollywood premiere, and they were all there. And with our mutual friend Brian Godawa, and I was working the room. It was fun.
Good, man.
But it's like I like Trump. I don't care about this stuff, and all these surveys saying, yeah, no, he doesn't have a chance now. DeSantis is showing how to govern, but Trump is Trump, and so they're two different worlds. So,
and by the way, to the Trump fans out there, my love for Trump does not negate my love for DeSantis. And for a lot of people, they're trying to make it either or on MAGA side. I think that's another mistake. They're going like, I saw a guy say the other day in my chat, no MAGA would be for DeSantis. That's just not true.
Yeah, it's not.
That if you're for DeSantis, you're not make America great again. I just disagree with that. So but they're two different forms of politics, two different guys. I think they both can be very good, and you never know. My big thing is like, I don't know the future. Why does everyone suddenly know the future? Michael?
You are reading my mind, because I'm like, I gotta stop saying things in such a sense that people think I'm actually predicting the future, right? Yeah. People don't understand certain nuance and certain ways we convey what we believe. It comes across as people think you're just knowing the future, and you don't. We don't. We know, we have an idea. We know certain things. There are certain things that are fixed in the future, like the sun will burn out one day, right? I have an astrophysicist friend who can tell you where the sun will be in 1,000,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So there are certain things.
Can't predict the weather next week, but they know where the ocean levels will be in 10 years.
So I don't know what the future holds. I want to talk about Kari Lake. Well, I know we're on Trump right now, but
sure. But okay, so I'll wrap the Trump thing up.
Yeah.
Bottom line, all these Republicans are saying it's a mistake. They don't know that it's a mistake. They're going by the standard playbook. It's a mistake. Fine. Standard playbook. It's a mistake. And Trump, you can throw that playbook in the trash.
Yeah.
Republican polls, Trump is down. DeSantis is ahead. Also means nothing, because Trump can pull something out of his hat. And we've seen him do this.
He has a core who love him no matter what. And everything he does or says is going to get attacked. And so it's always the left attacking, always everything he does. And then sometimes the right jumps on board, and it feels like everyone's against him or whatever. And it's like, he is the Teflon of Teflon, right? Yeah. All of this rolls off of him. He can come back tomorrow and say something and have everybody back on his side instantly. They just can.
Yeah, the same people that said Fetterman won't win say Trump can't win. You know what I mean? I'm just going, well, you know the future? All these, and all they're doing, and then they all repeat each other. So everyone repeats each other about, did you hear about the biggest mistake of Trump's life? He rolled out NFTs yesterday. And then they all go, yeah, that was a bad move.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's anybody's game. And show a little humility toward the future. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I guarantee you one thing. There's a bunch of world leaders out there that are just dying for Trump to be back in office, because he made the world a safer place.
Yeah.
Just simply by being in office.
Yeah.
By virtue of his unpredictability.
Yeah.
And his love for America.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one other thing to pitch. Love America. I have a YouTube channel called Love America.
Oh, brother.
It's a crossover channel. My Sweet Home Maricopa is my politics.
Focus.
My
Pick a
politics
lane.
channel.
Focus.
Are you kidding? When you work in Hollywood, you have to have so many irons in the fire in Hollywood. So,
all right.
This is the show where that you're in, right? When I came and traveled and visited you and videotaped,
Yeah.
Love America. It's not politics. It's not religion. It's just
I
loving
I really agree with busting out different YouTube channels. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I'm all for it. But Ed in Exile this channel's blowing up.
Congratulations.
This is going to go out. This is unedited on Locals and on Rumble.
Yep.
But the reason why I can't do Rumble is this show will get 200 views on Rumble. I just spent 15 minutes on a video yesterday, and I brought in 800,000 views on my channel. Michael, if you're trying to make a dent in what people think, do you want an episode on a platform that gets you 200 views or one that gets you 800,000 views?
Dude, you do not have to sing the praises of YouTube to me. I am singing the praises of YouTube constantly. Yeah, they got a bunch of problems in their management, in their
they're evil. Yeah, evil.
Right?
Their management's evil.
I'm telling you, God is using YouTube. God
no
is
doubt
using YouTube. It's like in God's hands, and he's laughing at them that think they can control it.
Yeah.
Right. And like, oh, you think you can destroy my humans? No, I'm in control of this. My life.
And Rumble has its strengths in that I don't have to edit this episode to put it there.
Yeah.
And Locals has its strength because those people that subscribe are carrying my life in the hard times.
Right.
But the way that I'm going to grow those people on Locals is going to be by having YouTube blow up and pointing them to Locals.
Yep.
That's a better business plan. I'll load up Locals all day. I'm not going to load up Locals by being just on Locals and not getting outside of it. You have to get outside. Okay. Kari Lake, lawsuit.
So she, in a video she posted, it was either yesterday or the day before. It was the day before. On Twitter. She's probably posted it in multiple places, but I saw it on Twitter. She said overtly, we have put together the strongest election lawsuit in history. We have put together the strongest election lawsuit in history. And, she's a media personality, so she knows a good soundbite, but I'm not sure it's hyperbole. I think she might, if not the strongest.
There's no way we can know, right?
Right. There's no way we can know, but to make that statement, what's different about 2020 and all the lawsuits that were cobbled together at the last minute, right? In 2020, it was like, wait, something went wrong, and they just started having to throw and file lawsuits because there's a time frame. There's a limited time frame when you can file these challenges. Well, 2020 prepared us for 2022, and so she had lawyers ready. She had lawyers on the ground. She had people, legal experts, watching and processing and writing down and summarizing and collating or whatever, and getting it all ready for the deadline. And she filed it on that deadline, and the accelerated trial is in process, and we're right in the middle of that. On Monday, the oral arguments for the they file the what is it?
They had a motion to dismiss.
Right? Monday is the oral arguments.
But it can still get dismissed, so they may never get to the oral art. They did set up all. They go, this is a motion to dismiss. If that doesn't go through, then this is when the oral arguments begin. So I'm only saying, and the judge was very cool about it. He goes, because the defense, Katie Hobbs' defense, tried doing a run-on going, we believe this is going to get dismissed, which is no different than Kari Lake saying we have the strongest election lawsuit in history. That's what a defense says. A defense is supposed to say, we believe this will be dismissed because due to the lack of evidence. Going, you know what? We're going to have to run it through the court and look at it before we decide if it's going to get dismissed. Then we get to oral arguments. If it passes that first criteria, that'll be a huge thing, just if it's allowed in a court, because they could do a redo on the election.
Yep. Well, there's my question. So this judge has the power to order a new election. That could be what happens on December 22nd, right? So if the motion to dismiss is denied on December 21st, they start the trial. December 22nd, they finish, right? He's given them 2 days. I mean, things could change and he could add a day or whatever. A judge can do what he wants. It's his courtroom. But he could order a new election, or he could just say, all right, sorry, Kari.
I listened to the judge a lot. So I went and familiarized myself with this judge. Is he the kind of guy that's too afraid to follow the law if it demanded that he overturn an election?
Right. Make a name for himself. Does he want that kind of attention? Does he want that reputation? Does he want to be in the history books? He's already
my
in the history
sense
books.
is he's going to follow the law.
Okay, good.
And so
It'll be a Rittenhouse, right? You need a Rittenhouse judge, right?
But listen,
you need a judge like
if he
Rittenhouse.
doesn't overturn the election, I don't believe he's a sellout. I don't believe he's a Soros conspiracy. I don't believe he's in Katie Hobbs's pocket. So I'm saying before what he decides, that I trust him as a judge, that if the law warrants a redo, he will redo it. If the law doesn't warrant it, he won't do it. That's my sense.
Good. And that's what we want. And we have to ahead of time determine in our hearts that we're going to settle for this decision. But my question is, if he decides not to, is there recourse to appeal? How does the process work? Kari Lake was saying, I'm prepared to take it to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So if he rules against Kari Lake, then
up she goes.
Up she goes. Same with Katie Hobbs. And I did a video kind of to the on Sweet Home Maricopa. I did a video saying, this should be it. We should be done with it. Whatever this, I kind of misspoke. I said, whatever this judge says, everybody should be happy with it. And people accuse me of being like McCarthy and you just wanted to quit and move on and move past it. I'm like, so I did another video correcting or clarifying. I meant this lawsuit, right? I don't mean stay with whatever this judge says and not use what's available to you, which is the appeals process.
That's
Our
right.
system says you can appeal. And that's what I meant to say is like, this should be appealed as far as it can go. And then when the Supreme Court rules on it, both parties have to abide and be satisfied with whatever the Supreme Court says, even if it is ruled against Kari Lake. But I don't mean to quit. There's
and they always dismissed him too. They wouldn't look at the evidence with Sidney Powell's ones. They just said, nope, we're not going to touch this. So this is our legal system, guys. This is it. And if anyone who disagrees with it, this is more aimed at the left, because the left always accuses the right of being insurrectionists against our laws. If you don't have to agree that every judge or lawyer that they got the truth. Right. You don't have to agree with that, but this is our legal system. And for any leftist to say, we disagree with this judge, what he did, going up to the Supreme Court, they're exactly as insurrectionist and undermining of our legal system as anyone else is. It's not, the claim isn't that the Constitution got it perfect or that even voting is the only right way. I think you should be allowed to freely speak and say, I think there's a better system. I think we should have a king and a throne. I think you should be allowed to say that. That's not insurrection. But undermining that law is the definition of insurrection in our country. So if you try to actually undermine Kari Lake's free attempt at a lawsuit and free attempt at an appeal, you're as much against the law as trying to insurrect the rules that be as anyone else.
The word sacred, right? We have sacred institutions, and that doesn't mean anything to somebody who's a secularist, because the secular religion, nothing is sacred, right? And that they literally believe the opposite. It's upside down world for them. But your vote and the system, the institutions that have been given to you by God, right? That's what essentially the Constitution and our form of government assumes. God, the Christian God, it assumes it. And so you having a vote is like God recognizing your value. God recognizes that you as an individual have power. You need to understand you are not owned by someone else. You're not owned by the state. You are an individual who has been given things that can never be taken away. And voting is one of those things that, is a human construction to represent that. And we should take that seriously and
human construction represent that. And it didn't give us much better results than being under a throne. So, and by the way, if we ended up being under a throne, that too would be an institution that God would command us to follow. So because he tells the slaves, obey your master.
Yep.
The idea, I think our problem is we think that just because we fall under a governmental institution, that they're perfect or moral or right all the time. That's not what God means by obey your leaders. He's not saying, he's saying you obey them, and sometimes they're going to take you down a hole.
Well, Romans 13 was where Paul says, obey the civic, authorities, because
pay your taxes.
They're put there by God, and that's the same Roman authority that put him to death.
Yeah.
Right. And so he wouldn't say obey them when they tell you not to go to church.
Yeah. He knew they were satanic, and he said to obey them. And he's saying, because a government is a system, it's something that God did institute. The idea that it's a reflection of God's top-down hierarchy is what the shape of. It's kind of the same thing with marriage. It's a shape of a true thing, even if you're in a bad marriage. You know what I mean? A bad marriage doesn't discredit the perfect institution. Neither does a bad government. Doesn't mean that there's such a thing as a hierarchy.
Well, I believe that as a post-millennialist, partial preterist.
You poor thing.
Well, you're in the same camp.
Yeah. Sure.
But that frame of mind, when you understand what that means and you look forward and you're like, oh, God's intent is for these systems to improve and correct and submit to the rule of God, right? And so whether it's a representative republic like we live in now, or whether it's a monarchy, all of those systems have a godly version, right? There is a version that is pleasing and obedient to the precepts that God lays out, his law. And any governmental system, whatever it is that submits to God, is a good one, and people will live happy and in harmony, because from the top, they'll be following and obeying the Lord. And that is our future. And
yeah, we're still screwed though, and kill lots of black babies. Other than that,
yes, we are under judgment.
We're
currently under judgment.
They did call the disrespect of marriage the Respect for Marriage Act. They're also going crazy on vocabulary. It's evil, dude.
It is. And let me just say, somebody who one of our viewers, one of our regular viewers on one of my channels, after our episode last week of this show, last week, I don't know if you recall our topic, but they're like, I was so discouraged and depressed after that episode, because we were talking about all the evil people in power, and it doesn't seem like there's any light, et cetera, et cetera. But there is good happening that doesn't get the headlines. I mean, Ron DeSantis
every day.
Right. And Florida's the best example.
True heroism and amazing, great things happening.
Well, look at the Florida example. He won his first election by just a razor thin edge. And that's how I've been looking at Arizona. I'm like, if Kari Lake can pull this off, all you have to do is that margin to get across that margin. And then you fix the state. And then in the next election, you get a 20-point margin.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I will predict that she's not going to win and nothing's going to happen. That's terrible to say, of course, but I am rooting for her. I am rooting for all of the truth to get flushed out, and a complete redo of the election, and a complete reformation of Arizona's system, and for Arizona to go from purple to red. I just have a low view of people and of masses and of the situation and of courage and stuff. So I'm rooting for it. But if I was going to make a prediction, nothing.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Black-pilled. What does black-pilled mean? I keep hearing
that's
that.
Black-pilled. It's giving someone, waking them up to the truth of the really bad news. It's called being black-pilled. When someone else is doing the hopium and the red pill, going, we're going to do it. We're going to fight. America's going to be great again. Then a black pill guy comes in and goes, we haven't followed the Constitution in 40 years.
Yeah.
It's all the economy. We're living off the fumes of the past. That's another one you'll hear.
I think one of the problems with we humans, I'm going to include myself in this, is we forget to live our lives in a dual nature, right?
Yeah.
We need to live in the moment as if it's your last day. And in that sense, you want all the good stuff to happen instantly. But you also need to live your life as if you're going to live a long life and do whatever you can in your power to be a force for change for good, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not instantaneous. And sometimes you do have instantaneous satisfaction, and it's not long term. So we have to live in a mind frame where, okay, God is in control, and he is not surprised by any of this, and he foreordained every one of these details, right? These are things are happening under his authority.
And we can also shake our fist at evil. And what did he say about evil? What you intended for evil?
Oh, yeah. Romans 8:28.
I intended for good. So you can sit there and look at your evil of your time and go, this isn't part of God's will. What do you mean crucifying Jesus is God's will?
Yeah.
Well, what you intended for evil, I intended for good. And you can go down all kinds of evil that temporarily just seem like, I don't understand. It's suffering. It's terrible. And then in hindsight, you look back and you go, I see fruits coming from that God used it for good.
Well, on that note, I a slight change of gears here. I have not used Twitter, and I'm disciplining myself. You should be proud of me. 3 days in a row, I've tweeted one time, 3 days in a row. So
I'm the king of Twitter. So I'm diarrhea on Twitter.
I'm taking baby steps. Because, I got a full life. To work something new into your schedule, it takes time. And so I'm taking baby steps. I'll be full on Twitter eventually. No. But one of the But one of the things I'm going to, coin or push is, you hear about being red pilled, you hear about being about being black pilled. I'm going to be pushing get blood pilled. When you take the blood pill, you have divine royal blood in you. It's just a reference word. Know Jesus. Get to accept Jesus into your heart, right? Get blood pilled, because just being red pilled isn't enough, right? Just because
the atheistic
thing. But if you're doing all this without looking at God and God's plan and understanding your personal relationship with God is eternal, you are immortal. As a Christian, all of this stuff going on politically is a blip in history that you're going to look back on one day as, oh, remember when we were struggling with what was going on with our government? We're going to be in glory with the Lord. And if you have that perspective, it changes your present perspective, right?
It's a long game.
It's a long game.
And like you said, dual nature. You still play today. You don't sacrifice today for the long game, and you don't sacrifice the long game for today, because you're both living in the moment, and you're an eternal being.
Yep. But you also have to pay attention to what's going on. I'm doing a series with a guy about, there's this Catholic magazine called First Things. Yeah, and there's an article. Really good teaching. And there's an article, kind of the antidote to CRT, right? It's 16 articles. We affirm this and deny this. Mm-hmm. And it just breaks down CRT. And I went on this tangent and I forgot where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Rescue me, Doug.
Yeah. The First Things had an article addressing CRT as are they saying that it's a fashionable blip that's today? Or are they saying that it's going to be here? The psychotic pagan belief of tribalism is going to move on, stay.
They're affirming eternal truths that when you break down those truths and understand them, it puts CRT in perspective. It's like, for example, the first one essentially affirms that man and woman or humankind are created in God's image, and that transcends any differences we have. Yeah. Right. If you understand male and female human, right, that is a special category. It's not white male, white female, black male, black female. Those are subservient to the higher principle that
Right.
we are in God's image. It's not man is in God's image, and people forget that man is just it's supposed to be a gender neutral term sometimes, right? It's human, man meaning human. God said, God created them in his image, and it says they, them, the two of them, not Adam, but Adam and Eve are both equal in God's image. And our differences make us superior sometimes and inferior at other times. So there are this idea of superiority and inferiority is underneath the equality of being human. And so
That's right.
that eliminates all of the principles of CRT.
Yeah, it's materialism that screws all that up.
Yeah.
It's materialism because it does not have the ceiling lifted off of humanity to believe in a soul. So all you have left is the lagging indicator of success and failure, and you just look at it and try and reverse engineer a moral out of it, and it doesn't make for good philosophy. It becomes circumstantial. Everything is circumstantial. So you create circumstantial Christians, circumstantial atheism, circumstantial morality, and there's no transcendent morality.
Sam Harris.
Yeah.
Sam Harris.
Yeah. Or they lose their mind and practically become a Buddhist, which is kind of what Sam Harris did with spiritism. And that's what happens is modernism, the despair and emptiness of modernism in an ice cold universe creates postmodernists and existentialists who are wacky, weird, unadhere the mind and heart, even from the materials. They practically become Gnostics. So it's all a mess. It's deep, it's dumb, it's kind of repeating all the time because we're always, you look at the materials and you see the materials and you know they're there, and then you start to doubt in the supernatural.
On that note, have you ever heard of the guy Twitch? So there was this dancer who also he came up through one of those dancing TV shows and then became an executive producer on Ellen DeGeneres' show. Okay. He was her DJ, and then several seasons he became an executive producer.
Killed himself, right?
Yes. Gunshot wound, self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I work in that business, so I was assigned that day when you have obituaries.
Oh wow!
Sometimes they assign them to me. Because I cut those pretty well. I won an Emmy because I worked on an obituary show, and that show won the Emmy. But this guy, and I'm watching the interviews because we have a vault of this guy and his wife and his 3 kids, and he's got everything in the world. He's happy. It's like he's like on top of the world. But who knows what's going on the inside in his personal relationship? When the camera's on, you're one way, but who knows the emptiness of life? Even when you're on top of the world, the emptiness, if you don't have the truth, right? If you don't have that rock solid.
I was surprised to hear that he has a wife and kids. I always assumed he was single, that he would killed himself and and then to hear that he had a wife and kids.
Yeah. Like a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and then a 14-year-old from a previous marriage. Right. And just gorgeous.
I hope he reached out and talked to someone. I mean, I hope he wasn't alone, with all those, he couldn't talk to, anyone.
The story is he walked out, or he left home without his car, and his wife went to the police department to report that that she didn't know where he was and was worried about him. So that tells me there was some argument, some fight, something going on, something that we will never know. Yeah. Right. The dark secrets or something happened, and he went to a hotel. I guess he had a gun in his pocket or whatever, and went into a hotel room, and that was it.
Crazy. It's terrible.
Like you're saying, secularism, there's no hope. Why should he live? Darwinism says, oh, okay, he's just cleaning out the gene pool, right? He's sowed his seed and his time is done.
It's also weird. I've been reading the Old Testament. I'm working my way through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. I'm halfway through Numbers, and people suffer. Sometimes they suffer at the hand of God. He's like throwing plagues on them. Like, you disobeyed me, I'm going to throw a plague on all of you guys. One guy's wife breaks out in leprosy. And it's kind of got the normalization of suffering. And that's something that's just a horror to us because we live such soft lives that the idea of any real suffering, the idea that it's supposed to be alien to us or something,
Mm.
it's incredibly normal in the Bible for suffering. And
it's a given.
And what God shows is that you're never alone in your suffering. He's not indifferent to our suffering. It means something to him. And anyone, anyone who experiences suffering, you don't suffer alone ever. We have the God who suffers with us.
And suffering, I don't know if I'll be able to convey this profound thought, but suffering to me is evidence of immortal glory, right? We know that this is not what we are destined for, but we also know that it's temporary and that it is something that is shaping us, crafting us. I mean, think of of smelting, right? You want to get some pure valuable material. You put it in a furnace and you burn it and you burn off the impurities. And that's what suffering is. It is God shaping us and refining us, because this world, this temper, until we put on the immortal, we have a job to do. It is to represent that future. That's what makes us salty. When we suffer and have joy in the midst of suffering, the world sees the immortal, right? The world sees the divine. How can they either think you're deluded, but that you can't be deluded because you acknowledge that you're suffering. Like if you were deluded, you were like, I'm not suffering, but you're suffering. It's like, oh, they're looking forward to something. They're crazy, but let me see what is this about. But when you said in the Bible, God makes people suffer, 2 or 3 days ago on my Bible Every Morning show, we read through the end of the last couple chapters of First Kings, and there's a prophet. It's with Elijah, but then this other prophet, God says to him, tell your companion, your friend, to strike you with a sword, right? To strike you. And
I love it.
And that guy's like, no, I'm not going to strike you. And then the prophet says, oh, because you decided not to strike me, you're going to go over there and the lion's going to kill you and eat you. Yeah. And then he tells the next guy, strike me. And the next guy goes, that guy got killed and eaten because he didn't strike him. I'm going to strike him. And it's a wound. And it doesn't say if it was a mortal wound. It's just wounded. And it's God showing this prophet being mortally injured is a message to the king. Yeah. It's like, that's how God works. Your suffering is used as a message to those paying attention.
Yeah, he's not some modernist God that's all antiseptic and logic and perfect. He's a person. He's a being, Yeah. He's raging.
All suffering is from Satan, and your God is against you if you're not prosperous. Your faith isn't strong enough. Your faith isn't strong enough because
God says, I'm the God who creates calamity. Dude.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Job gets it. Job gets it.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around, but it is, because it's so antithetical to our culture, which kills babies. Well, this has been another lovely time together right here on the Friday Morning Fiasco.
Man, I look forward to this. Sorry, I was late this morning, but
that's okay. I was eating a chorizo and egg burrito made by the beloved Miss TENNAPEL.
Yum.
And now I got to pound out some videos. But this is mostly just for the locals and Rumble people.
Yeah. So you're essentially getting closer to replacing your income.
Almost, yeah.
That's good.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, I think the trajectory that's happening is a big game changer on my channel. I had a theory, I always have a theory about the algorithm, and then I spend a little time producing content and seeing what it does. And then I watch it manipulate the algorithm. And then I know that my theory was right. So I'm not always right. I have to sometimes make adjustments throughout the weeks as I make material. And I slowly learn through my A/B testing what's going on. And then by the end, but now I'm just absolutely cranking. 800,000 views in 2 days on YouTube is insane.
Nice. I had 300,000. So things are going well for me as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And the thing is,
it also could be an external force, by the way, is that 300,000 could be that there's a lot of ad inventory flushing into YouTube for Christmas season that they have to dump out on channels. So they give you views. They suggest your channel out to the right demographic that they're trying to sell Christmas advertising to. It could also be that. So you can delude yourself in false, the correlation is not causation.
You have something to do with it, but not everything to do with it.
Yeah.
But also, as you take on new subscribers, it's kind of self-perpetuating, self-fulfilling. As long as you're consistent, it's only going to grow and grow and grow until.
Yeah, the line for my channel right now is going, but so as long as it's doing that, I'm doing something right.
And don't take long breaks.
Yeah,
like I did. I took a 8 to 10 month break.
Yeah, that's how you kill a channel. It resets all the data, though.
I resurrected it. It's like I've shown that you can stop, take a break, do other things, and then get back to it. And I'm getting back to it at the right time. I did get a strike.
Ooh.
Yeah. I already told you about that. Yeah, it was a 1 week strike, and I'm like, okay, no more Fauci COVID again. Geez.
Yeah, I can't even touch the subject. I want to talk about it. Believe me, I want to just go crazy on it, and I can't.
YouTube's got that to get over. I mean, okay, we got to finish this up. Maybe next week we'll talk about this.
Yeah, sure. All right, my brother.
Is Elon going to fix the Fauci problem? Right.
Well, there's going to be news, and you're not going to be allowed to. That's another reason why we're on locals. Is like on locals, we can say what we want. It's a much smaller audience. It's almost like does a tree, if it doesn't make a sound, if there's no one there.
If the tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound?
But it is important to have an outlet that's pure truth, and this is the one where we're unedited on locals. So to me, that is a gold in and of itself, and you don't need the numbers. It doesn't make sense that there would be numbers. This has been Doug TENNAPEL and Michael Gavlak here. We're missing you, Q, out there, and we thank you all. God is good
all the time.
This has been the Friday Morning Fiasco.